I do feel like we could trick someone into giving us $7 million if we tried hard enough.
All right. So let's go down this rabbit hole, Matt.
Uh-huh.
Do it.
What did the Joker say about never, if you're good at something, never do it for free?
Okay. If you're gonna actually pursue this, starting with a quote from the Joker, not good.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Oh. He was the hero of the movie.
Don't go into a meeting with a millionaire you're about to ask $7 million for with, to quote the Joker,
yeah.
Gimme.
You want to know how I got these scars?
I'm very uncomfortable by the fact that you're very slowly taking off your clothes right now.
It's part of the bit, Scott.
Hello and welcome to Flanagan's Wake, a Doof Media podcast unknowingly discussing the younger version of Mike Flanagan. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, he's got pallid skin, sharp teeth and claws, creepy eyes, and spooky bat wings. So I'm thinking, Angel?
Hey, I don't have spooky bat wings.
No, you definitely do.
Oh, okay.
This week on the show, our time with Midnight Mass continues as we discuss Book 3, Proverbs. Lisa's miracle has reignited the Holy Spirit in Crockett Island as the town falls in love with mysterious Father Paul Hill, who finally reveals that he is actually Monsignor Pruitt, de-aged by the power of angel blood.
Because those are the rules of angel blood from all of the angel blood stories.
You didn't read the Book of Angel Blood? Call yourself a Catholic?
Yep, I believe it's somewhere toward the back.
Oh man, Matt. Wow. Once again, kind of completely blown away. Book 3, Proverbs. Let's just get the stats out of the way. Written for TV by both Mike and James Flanagan, directed by Mike Flanagan, edited by Mike Flanagan, director of photography, once again, was Michael Fimignari. This one, Matt, kind of bowled me over in a way. I said this when we were talking earlier. I'm going to go ahead and say it again. My first watch of this episode for the show kind of caused me to panic a little bit because I like the credits rolled and I was like, oh my God, there's so much that just happened in that last hour. How am I going to get my head around this in time to talk about this on a podcast in a few days? And I kind of freaked out about it. Fortunately, I got to watch the show like 3 more times since then, and I'm a little calmer now. But I think I just am and continually surprised. Not that the show is good, because I think you and I both went into it thinking that is a pretty good show, but just like the level at which it's operating is kind of like causing my head to explode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like everything that we want a storytelling to be. You know,
yes.
I think you're right. We were talking about this earlier, but it's like this show is kind of next level. The show is kind of perfect. It's actually genius, and like the writing is just one part of that. I mean, the writing itself is this incredibly layered analysis of the role of faith and religion in our lives, with all of this nuance and complexity to it, in a very mature and sensitive way, bringing all these ideas into this space where these ideas can interact with each other, and sort of like surface thoughts and feelings that maybe you've had in your life but never articulated, or maybe you have articulated these, but the show somehow manages to put a fresh feeling spin on it. And he does this by encapsulating it inside this elevated horror metaphor, or the fantastical metaphor at this point. It's not horror yet, really, sort of.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. It's getting more horror. And like, it's just like clockwork. I mean, we keep using that word. I feel like I keep using the word clockwork to describe like these episodes, but it's like the idea of the metaphor of clockwork is like every piece is intentional and meshes with something else. Yeah. That's what I'm going for. And that's what every piece of dialogue, every scene, even the structure of this episode, like, I think one reason why I felt bowled over by this episode, maybe it's the same with you, is that in addition to each of the scenes being perfect, it's structured in this really interesting way where we're like cutting back and forth between time. We're playing with how we're getting information, and that is also feeding into character, right? Because that can feel, playing with structure can feel inert. I think that's one of the risks when people get really artistic with their structure. It can feel kind of lifeless because it's like, okay, you're too excited about your structure. In this show, it's like the structure is totally serving the character moments and the sequencing of emotionality to everything. So yeah, I know these are very kind of broad, but I think we're kind of table setting for the detail we're going to go into over the next hour or two.
Yeah, I think so. You know, one of the things I've often bemoaned about the state of modern television is the idea that the episode as a unique piece of media kind of doesn't exist in these shows that are built to be one continuous story told over multiple episodes. And like, I'm not saying that that's not sometimes the case with Midnight Mass, but I think this episode in particular is an episode. Like, it is an old school episode of television, and I think it is because of the structural conceit that you're talking about here of Father Paul Hill, aka Monsignor John Pruitt, relaying what happened to him on his mission, and basically the entire structure of the episode is hinging upon these recreations of the Stations of the Cross through John Pruitt's adventures in Jerusalem, which is just a brilliant motif for that. But it really anchors the show and allows the show to have this very distinct beginning, middle, and end structure to it that I think just makes me say, this is television. This is what TV is. This is an episode. It is one distinct unit of a story. And yeah, I really loved it for that.
Yeah, me too.
And I think one of the things that I continue to be amazed by, and like you said, I think we're going to dive into this in detail as we go, is that this is a story that is absolutely being critical of religion and faith in a lot of ways. But it is also a story that continually looks at those things with a very sympathetic, understanding, complex light, right? This is an episode in which we see that a priest sees a demon vampire and says, angel, I better bring this home and then secretly feed my congregation its blood. But at the same time is an episode that talks about how fucking powerful forgiveness can be. Like this core concept of Catholicism and Christianity, this idea of forgiveness, this and grace that forgiveness provides. This is this fundamental concept of this belief. And the show just demonstrates, yeah, it's fucking powerful. Like, and I just love that. I love that, like, this is not a thing that's just taking swipes at religion in a I'm better than this bullshit kind of way. It is complex, and it is poking at it, and it is seeing the good parts and the bad parts and what it can give you and what it can take away and how it can destroy you or how it can help you. Like, there's all these little bits in here. Like, I love jumping all over the place, but there's a moment when Lisa is with Dr. Sarah and they're kind of inspecting her. One of the things is said is like, we don't want to take her to the mainland because honestly we can't afford any more tests. And one of the things is like, half of our food is we use the SNAP stamps on, and then the other half is donated from the church. And it's like, oh, look at that, look at the real thing that this church is doing, this actual helpful real thing the church is doing right now, that it is providing food to people that do not have food, right? That's a good, but there's also a bad. And it's like, it's being fair and level across the board in a way that I think is pretty remarkable.
Yeah. You tempted me just now to sort of go through and try to pick out, like, what are these sort of seesaws that we're playing with, where it's like you could name, I think I'm going to miss several, but off the top of my head, it's like the church is in fact a place of belonging and community. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's good. But also there's always the flip side to belonging in community, which is exclusion of the people who aren't part of that thing. And the fact of exclusion doesn't make belonging in community bad intrinsically. It's just there is this tension there. You know, there's the question of theodicy, or more specifically in the show, the idea of, you know, if God is so great and he does all these great things, then how come the world is so awful? And this is an idea, I think, that has, like, it's one of these ideas where it's like, look, there's no like refutation to this idea. It's just the power of believing in the goodness of God is very inspiring to people. And yet also there's this sort of inherent contradiction in it, which is really frustrating to people who have seen the darker side of the world, right? And it's like kind of both things, right? Like, you can have a person who's just super, like, they get a lot of strength and peace from the idea that God is watching over them. And then, but like the very existence of that idea is almost offensive to a person who has lost something, right? And then in this episode, I had a third thing I was going to say that was hooked on this episode. It was meant to ping off of what you just said, and then I lost it. But I think forgiveness basically is what I was going to try to riff on, because this episode does deal with forgiveness quite a bit. I honestly have a hard time finding a dark side to forgiveness. That's one area where I'm just like, that just seems like such a unalloyed good to me. And it is tied to, you know, this religion, which has its downside. So maybe that's the downside, is it's like this incredibly spiritually valuable payload is embedded in this thing with all these strings attached to it. Like, oh, okay, yeah. So for example, like, okay, the doctrine of forgiveness is great, but we frame it within the context of confession.
Sure.
Which is the church worming its way into your life, right? And it's like, well, you can be forgiven, but only if you do this little dance for us. Anyway, there. I'm done with my little trifecta there. But I think it's really interesting. Like, there's just to kind of go through how the show carefully addresses each of these issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe apt that we zoom in on forgiveness first here, because I think the Lisa and Joe Colley scene is my favorite scene of the show so far. Absolutely loved it, and I love forgiveness as a concept, so I was already primed for that. I do think it's really interesting that we get into this scene, and kind of the impetus for this happening now is that Lisa has been miraculously, quote unquote, cured, and is now walking again. And so there's this really interesting, I think, push and pull of this idea where I think the ability to walk up to a person that has wronged you and hurt you and say, I hate you. I hate you, but I forgive you.
I forgive you.
And how that has nothing to do with like, now we're going to be best friends, or like you and I, everything's going to be okay now. No, it's not, none of that. But it puts a load off the chest of the person that's doing the forgiving, and it does something profound and powerful to the person that is forgiven.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, no, sorry, I just want to fit this point.
Yeah.
It is true in the context of the show that the reason Lisa gets to this point where she can walk into Joe Colley's motorhome and forgive him is because she can walk now, right? Like, she's had this miracle occur to her. She's had this thing happen that she thinks is a miracle, that she thinks is God plucking her out and saying, you will be cured. Now we know, and the show has told us that there's nefarious reasons for that, that the characters don't know yet. But it is like a difficult thing to square, right? Of like, it was good for Lisa to forgive Joe. It was good for Joe to be forgiven by Lisa. But the thing that pushed this happening was this artificial fake miracle that was instituted by someone secretly drugging people without their consent, right? And so like that, you're like, wow, this is powerful, incredible, powerful, beautiful moment, wonderfully acted and performed by both characters. But then you have this thing hanging on it, right?
Yeah, right. Because she didn't have this conversation with him, a year ago or whatever, and maybe would have lived out her whole life without ever quite getting there if she hadn't been healed. So,
yeah,
I think another thing that the show is doing somewhat overtly, I mean, it's showing this to us, is that we compare we compare him with Riley by having them both show up in the AA.
Mm-hmm.
And so we juxtapose these two men who are alcoholics, who have both done things that they regret. But the difference between them is that Riley will never receive forgiveness for what he did because the woman he wronged is dead. And I don't know if I'm, there's always some amount of projecting when it comes to performances, obviously, but I kind of read into his performance like he's looking at Joe Colley and he's like, you're lucky because the thing that you did isn't nearly as bad as the thing that I did. and like, man, it must feel good for her to say that she forgives you. And I can see how great that must make you feel. And this is, if anything, just rubbing in the fact that I will never receive forgiveness and I will never forgive myself.
Yeah.
And, Father Paul might say, well, only, Jesus can forgive you. And Riley would say, it's not Jesus that I wronged, okay? It's this girl that I killed. And I feel like Riley's position there would be, in my opinion, the more understandable one, the correct one, whatever that means. Like, what are you supposed to do? It's great when you can forgive yourself for something. Like that's kind of a really great thing that a human being can do to just like set down a burden. But in a situation like Riley's, it's like, can he, like he can't just decide to forgive himself. It's not a choice that he is free to make because it's deeper than rationality,
Yeah.
And that's, I think these are all things the show is actually confronting us with.
This is the power of God, Matt. This is kind of the point though, right? This is like the idea that that person, like Joe Colley might never have, like Lisa might never walk in his door and forgive him, right? Like that happened in the show, but it could never happen, right? For most of the people that exist in this world, when you do something wrong, you're not going to have this wonderful moment where that person walks in and says, "I forgive you." But there is a power greater than all those people that will forgive you no matter what. That if you are genuinely sorry, that you can get that feeling from them. And that's what's so attractive and alluring about this whole thing is Riley can't get forgiveness from the woman he killed because she's dead, but God will forgive you, right? If you could forgive yourself, you can be forgiven. That's why it's so appealing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that the show is wrestling with, right? Because I think you're absolutely right that Riley would say, I didn't, like, God is not the person I've wronged. I wronged this girl. And then Father Paul would say, yeah, but by wrong, you've broken your covenant with God. Like that's, so you do need to ask God for forgiveness, actually. Like the idea of everything you do to mine, you do to me, like that concept. I'm not quoting it exactly, but yeah, I mean, like that's the fascinating thing about it. And it's the part of it that I can get behind is this idea of like, the performances here. We haven't said the name Anara Simone, I think, who is, I think I'm pronouncing that right. The woman who plays Lisa Scarborough. We haven't said her name yet, but she knocks that scene out of the park, man. Like she's so good in there. And of course, Robert Longstreet as Joe Colley also is amazing in that scene. The noise he makes, Matt, when she says, "I forgive you." The noise he makes, the visceral physical reaction to those words. It's like part of it, like is rejection of it. Cause no, I don't deserve that. But like, it's a mixture of like rejection and shock and horror and relief and all of those things. And it's just this noisy, it's so good. It's so, like, it's what a perfect way to demonstrate the power of this.
I forgive you. I forgive you, Joe Colley.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're both so good. Like his reaction when she comes to the door, and it's like I love that we don't see who it is at first, and he reacts as if it. I don't know. It's funny because I saw the show the first time so long ago that I don't remember what what I thought the first time, but it's like, shock and horror. It's like, oh, is it the vampire? It's like, no, it's the girl that he wronged, and she's here now, and that's much scarier than a vampire would be to this guy. And now, and he's just like prepared to be abjectly, miserably sorry, and with no expectation of forgiveness, and then she just forgives him out of the blue, and it's it's grace, right? I love this, we say eucatastrophe a lot because it's like the fictional version of grace, or it's the way Tolkien popularized it, but in real life it's just called grace, where it's like a thing that you don't deserve, a good thing that you didn't do anything to deserve, just happens to you because God is good, essentially. And that's kind of that's the vibe of this, and it's beautiful. I love this.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's powerful. It's wonderful. The idea that she's able to do that, watching Joe kind of, it's really, the scene is wonderfully constructed because it starts going probably the exact way he imagined this would ever go if she confronted him, where she's just ripping him apart, and he's like taking it, and he's like, yep, this is what I deserve. Finally, I'm getting it. There's probably some semblance of like, at last, like all that I deserve is coming to me. And then it flips immediately on that, I forgive you. And it's so like, and then suddenly it's something else.
Yeah.
And we get to see, I mean, that's the way the episode finishes. We get to see the real, almost immediate change this has on Joe, that he suddenly is a person that is going to go to AA. He's suddenly the person that thinks life is worth living. He suddenly is a person that thinks he's worth a damn, that wishes he had gone and saw his sister before she died. Like suddenly, like just one act, one small act can change so much in a person.
Yeah.
I don't want to minimize how difficult it was for Lisa, because I can't even imagine how hard it is to do that. But like, it's just one small thing she did. Just by letting something off her chest, she has changed her life and someone else's life.
I want to like sit with that for a second, because I read something into this performance and the scene, and I mean, I think it's there. I don't think I'm reading into it that where it's just like the tension, the almost inability to say the words, I forgive you. It's like she went there planning to do it, but she's having to work her way up to doing it, because she has to vent this rage first, because it's been this festering disease in her all of this time. And I feel like in the moment before she says it, it's like there's almost a fear of, if I say this, if I say what I'm about to say, I'm going to lose this reassuring ball of hate in my chest that I've been carrying around. That's my old friend, this hate. And I'm not sure if I know what to do without it. This anger and this resentment and this hate. And we're watching her take that. It's like a leap of faith to forgive someone, really, because it's like, well, then what do I have if I can't have this anger? Because anger is so comforting compared to the desolation of a loss just experienced objectively. And I felt like that just reminded me so much of times in my life where I have had to take that step, like for my own sanity, to just be like, I have to choose to forgive this person. And in the moment of making that choice, it can feel extremely like you're throwing away your life preserver, because the resentment is protective. I love every element of that scene. It's so perfect.
I agree. I think that's perfectly well said. It's in some ways the hardest possible thing you could ever do in the world. And I love, she quotes Proverbs 16:32 as she's saying to him, better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes the city. And it's like, once again, the way the show is doing this stuff, it's on the one hand showing all of the bad things that religion can create in a person. We have that in Bev Keane and also Pruitt. But the reason why Lisa is here is because of the miracle, yes, but it also because of her faith, because she prescribes to a religion that says you should forgive people, that it is wisdom and knowledge to not be angry, to not hate, to not want to destroy, but to forgive, to have self-control, to be patient, to understand. And it is this religion, it is this belief that gives that power to her and allows her to do that, which has immediate effects on her and the person she gives it to. So there's no quick, easy answer here, which I love. Like, I just want, like, my wife didn't know Mike Flanagan was atheist. And when I told her that, she was shocked. Because my wife, who's Christian, like, reads the show in probably a very different way than you do, right? I mean, maybe not. We'll see. We got 4 episodes to go, but like, everything she sees is confirming the power of her faith, and everything, the bad part, like, it's the perfect visualization of this is Aaron Green and Bev Keane sitting at the front of a classroom, and those are 2 Christian people, 2 Catholic people, 2 believers, 2 people of faith, and they could not be more apart from each other in how they exercise that. And so, like, this is not a critique of God or spirituality as a whole. This is a critique of the ways in which these things are sometimes weaponized and used and abused to hurt people.
I think that's one of the features of beautiful art is when you can find something in it that resonates with you, regardless of what perspective you're taking on it, right? So I totally get that a Christian would find validation, because it's like, yeah, the show is about how beautiful these parts of the Christian dogma can be. And then it's like, okay, but the show is also about how insidious some of the elements of the dogma, and especially the church as an organization, can be. And yet these things intermingle and coexist in complicated ways, where maybe you couldn't have some of these benefits without that structure, and there's no answer offered. It's just like, that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna get some Bev Keens for every Aaron. Like, that's life, by the way. That's not even just like Catholicism. That's just life. So you just wish that the Aarons,
if I may,
just spoke up a little bit more, right? Like, she's, bless her, she's trying, and it's very hard to knock Bev Keane off her soapbox. But you just want, like, Aaron, like, no, don't let her interrupt you. No, keep going. Make your point. You're right. I mean, that's like, in that situation, I am obviously on the Aaron Green side of this whole thing. We kind of just jumped into that without setting the scene of that, but that is also one of my favorite scenes from the episode of Sheriff Hassan finds a Bible in his son's backpack, goes, one of many parents that are going to the school to discuss the fact that not only has a public school sent the Holy Bible home with children, but are actively doing readings from the Holy Bible at school. My wife is also, by the way, a administrator at a public school, and you can't do that.
But Scott, it's just like a history book.
No, it is not.
It's actually not at all.
It's not at all. Yeah. I love that whole sequence. We're going to have a lot to say about Sheriff Hassan in this episode, I think, but I really love how incredibly, like, patient and good-natured and the ways in which he is trying to have a rational, logical conversation with these people. Like, and I love the point where you almost think he won the argument, right? Like, when Bev goes, well, I don't think this is an appropriate place to be discussing our differing opinions on scripture. And he's like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly my point.
There it is. That's the issue.
Yeah.
But of course it doesn't work because Bev Keane.
I think it's important that the show, communicated to us that Bev Keane is a person who would kill a dog because it barked at her. Like, and I think these people on this island know, it's not just like, oh, Aaron doesn't want to start a fuss. It's that, like, she knows this is actually kind of a dangerous and unhinged human being.
Yeah. Who
doesn't really have limits in the way that a normal person should. And we know that, and I think the people on the island know that. Like, everybody's kind of scared of her, right? She's she's taken this role in the community because she's, too scary to confront or really defeat in any way. Like she's clearly the antagonist, right? So that I'm just mentioning this because it's like that's one of the problems with like a super zealous. You could say faith. Okay, take the idea of faith as one of these two-sided things, where it's like faith can be beautiful in giving people strength to get through really difficult times, like Riley's mother uses faith that way. But faith is obviously the thing that Bev uses to justify just anything she wants to do, really, and makes her infinitely self-righteous and zealous in the pursuit of doing those things.
Yeah. I love what Aaron says about her. There's this particular brand of self-righteousness that is exclusive to a breed of religious is just a perfect way of describing her, and how much she hates that and hated that when she was not religious as a child, and when she came back to the religion, she still hates it just as much. Because this scene is one of those ones that is designed to be kind of absurd, because I think everyone watching generally agrees that in a public school, you should not be doing that. And I think despite her protesting, the idea that I love it, she says, no, I wouldn't run you out of town if you were giving the Quran out, or your child was sent to school and came home with the Quran asking about the Prophet. It's like bullshit. Bullshit. You wouldn't freak out about that. Like that's the biggest lie Bev Keane has told so far, is that it hurts me that you would even think that of me. You would be losing your mind, Bev. We both know that.
Right.
And how her racism and xenophobia just kind of comes through in this veil of like kindness and compassion. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I was, you almost want Sheriff Hassan to be like, oh, really? Oh, really? Fine. I'll bring a stack full of Qurans and hand them out. Mm-hmm. But like, you realize at the same time that you see him realizing it. Like there's a long shot of him just kind of like crumpling as he just realizes like, I have no power here. She's going to get away with this too. Just like she got away with poisoning the dog, because she has all of the social power. She's legally in the wrong. But if I, act on this in any meaningful way, I'm going to just catch a rash of shit from everyone else on this island, and worst of all from her, but really everyone's going to be on her side.
I mean, she's got the mayor right there clapping along with her. We're in this religious revival.
And he's just like, you can just see the like hopelessness and despondency on his face as he realizes like, I'm not going to win this. They're not even listening,
Yeah.
It's really quite sad. I mean, there's a lot of pathos from Sheriff Hassan in this episode.
Yeah, you feel so bad for him, and especially because, like, once again, like the idea, she can easily say, like, if a teacher wanted to stand up in front of the room and read the Quran, I would be absolutely fine with that as long as the passage was appropriate. And then she goes on to say, like, which forgive me if I say so, many of the words in that book are not. She hasn't fucking read the Quran. How do you know? How the fuck do you know? You haven't read that shit. Like, so like that's such bullshit.
Yeah.
But there's nothing he can do. Like and like it's also like, again, very easy for her to say that, knowing that would never happen. No one on this island is going to stand in front of a class and start reading the Quran. So I am safe in saying I would not do anything. I would be totally fine with that if it ever happened. It's easy to say that when you know for a fact that it's never going to happen, right? So like it's exactly what Aaron says. It's this self-righteousness. It's this idea that she almost succeeds in turning Sheriff Hassan's words against him, because he's talking about like. Muslims seek knowledge. I encourage everyone to read every book of faith and learn as much as they can. And then she's like, well, you're telling me you would want to take are you a book burner now? Would you want to burn? Like, what are you talking about burning books? No, we're just saying don't give Bible. You're a teacher. Don't give a Bible to a person. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But she just turns it around so cleverly. And he doesn't have the social capital. Like, not only is he Muslim, but he's the new guy, right? And so like we talked about it last week, but the way kind of in a doofy way, but also in a kind of subtextual like warning way, how the sheriff was telling him, you need to fit in here, you need to find a way to fit in here, you need to understand that you are seen as an outsider, and you need to do work to make people not feel that way about you. And so him holding the line on this thing is only going to hurt him in the long run. So yeah, you feel so bad for him.
Yeah. I'm just remembering like Aaron also tries to stand up against her, but she is also a kind of pariah. She's the prodigal daughter.
Yeah.
And she, so it's just very obvious how Bev like weaponizes these in-group, out-group distinctions to leverage social power and to essentially be there's a really interesting sense in which she has become the religious center of the island, because Father Pruitt was not like active. I mean, he was the priest, but it kind of seems like he conducted the ceremony of mass, but other than that, he seems to have kind of, I was going to say checked out, but it's like he couldn't do the job anymore.
Yeah.
And so the voice of, Christianity on the island has been Bev for some time now. Yeah. And they're all just used to her having that role. And I mean, maybe we talked about this a little bit, but like one of the reasons why I think she reacted with such like, anxiety to Father Paul appearing is like, there's like a real priest now.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be contesting me for my job as the religious head of this island.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is the island's like worst kept secret that Bev like took all their money, right? Like, I mean, I don't think anyone talks about it except for the pariahs. We see Riley and Joe are the only ones that bring words to it. But this idea that she took everyone's money and she built this useless building as a essential laundering of that money.
Yeah.
And we talked, I love this because we talked in the beginning about how, isn't it great that the church is helping the mayor and his family in this time of need, that half of his food is coming from the government. It's not enough though. And the other half is being donated by the church. And that is a very kind thing to do. And churches do help feed poor and unhoused people all the time. But another way of looking at that is that Bev Keane now owns the government too. That the mayor and his family is now indebted to the church, specifically Bev, to the point where she has both the religious power and the governmental power as well, which is kind of the way the church operated for a very, very long time.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, that and her, getting her tentacles into the school is related to that as well, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's we can pivot to another Bev Keane element of the story, if you don't mind.
Sure.
That like the beginning of the episode. Well, okay. We have the structural conceit of the framing story, but like one of the first things that happens is we see the ending of the previous episode, and it's kind of, first of all, I just love how it's shot, where it's like silent, and we're clearly seeing it from Bev's point of view this time, or actually we're seeing the aftermath of it to be precise. Yes. We're seeing the aftermath of it from Bev's point of view. And she's observing, and we're noticing the way in which Bev takes in information. And my take on Bev here is like, in a sense, witnessing a miracle is not as surprising to Bev Keane as it would be to you or me, because Bev Keane is actually a person of faith. She actually is a believer. Mm-hmm. So to her, a miracle from God is something that is within the realm of possibility. So the first thing she looks to after she's absorbed the fact that this miracle happened is she's super aware of people and power relationships between people. So her immediate instinct is, who did this? Who's responsible for this? And so that's why her attention, before anyone else's, goes to Father Paul. She's, as far as I can tell, the only one who even notices that he kind of hightails it out of there. and follows him.
She is, yep.
And this is because her attention is all about relationships, and I thought that was such a great detail, because she's really, she's genuinely just as, taken with the miracle as anyone else, but her instinct is people, and how can I get in on this personally?
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, I think it certainly does matter that Bev is a true believer, right? Mm-hmm. That she is, like, sometimes you wonder about these multi-million-dollar mega church evangelists, right? And like, are they buying everything they're saying, or at what point in their rationalization have they said, some of the stuff I'm making up just to get people to give me a lot of money, right? Like, mm-hmm. and you wonder, like, what level of it is legit faith and belief, and what level of it is I'm just running a scam to get people money. That's a question we will never know, right? But what I love about Bev Keane is she's everything we've said, and she's also a devout Catholic, right? Uh-huh. Right, and I think that matters, and I think that is very important.
Yeah. And I mean, exactly right. Like, I think that's the on some level, the tragedy of religion is that a person can know all of the words and do all of the gestures and, overtly give themselves to the faith as much as they possibly can, and yet still basically have a black twisted soul.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, I don't know what else to do for you.
And the idea that, and I think some of the thing that people like Bev hold on to is that because I am Catholic or because I am Christian, I am now a good person. Mm-hmm. And none of my behavior at that point matters, right? My Christianity, my Catholicism defines my goodness, and everything else. And I think, like, in the Bible, God specifically says, "Nuh-uh, that's not how it works." You shouldn't believe that, but so many people do. So many people do. Like, I am good because I'm Christian, because I'm Catholic. Everything else is just details. And that lends this kind of eternal scapegoat situation, or at least rationalization or justification, is like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I am Catholic. I believe in Jesus. God loves me. Therefore, XYZ. Yeah. I can do this. I can do that.
Right.
I am right.
So I think this touches on our conversation about forgiveness and self-forgiveness in such a fascinating way, because forgiveness is a beautiful concept. We've talked in other shows about the idea of guilt and how important guilt is, right? Like, guilt is often viewed as a negative thing, but it's like, look, you can't really improve as a person unless you're capable of feeling genuinely bad when you do terrible things.
Yes.
And the spiritual technology of Catholicism is to say, hey, you person who has maybe a somewhat overdeveloped sense of guilt, and you're too conscientious, you feel too responsible for the ills of the world, we can help you with that. We can show you how God can forgive you, and then you can forgive yourself, and you can kind of be okay with that. And that's wonderful for that kind of person, for the kind of person who feels guilt when they do wrong. But what about the Bev Keanes of the world who never feel guilt?
Yeah.
She never, and it's not because of religion. It's just like she's borderline a sociopath, really. Like, she just doesn't relate to that emotion. And you take a person like that, and then you give them the entitlement of God loves you and forgives you, and you essentially can do no wrong. You have taken a low grade sociopath and made them into like a empowered sociopath.
Yeah. It's kind of like the idea that, like, a benevolent dictatorship is the greatest form of government as long as all your dictators are benevolent. Like, the idea that Catholicism is wonderful as long as every single Catholic behaves like Jesus. Uh-huh. And the actual problem is that very few of them do, and some of them are horrible, terrible people that will use this for their own means, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that fits so well with our kind of framing story, which is Father Paul Hill, as we learn the night before he appears before the congregation for the first time, going to confessional and not confessing for a sin that he has done, but confessing to a sin he has not done yet or will do, which is not how any of this works. Just to say that clearly. You cannot pre-confess for a sin you have not committed yet.
Right.
God does not absolve you of sins you have not done yet. He would still have to go to confessional and be absolved from that sin. This is just according to Catholicism, right? I'm not even saying what I personally believe, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, and also like on top of that, you actually have to be contrite. You have to be sorry.
Yeah.
So he's pre-registering like, hey, I am gonna do this. So therefore I'm not really sorry. If I was really sorry, I wouldn't do it. Right.
Yeah. And it seems like the sin he's actually confessing to is not, I'm going to secretly poison my congregation with vampire blood. The sin he's confessing to is the little white lie I'm going to tell him tomorrow about Monsignor Pruitt. That's the sin I'm doing. The other stuff, that's God. That God sent me this angel, and so I'm just following you for that. So I'm not going to confess for a sin. That's not a sin. That's following your command. The part that is the sin is I'm going to lie to them.
Yeah.
Which is absurd. But there we are.
Let's talk about Father Pruitt for a bit.
Okay. I love him.
I love this character for sure.
Yeah.
He's one thing I was thinking about in this episode, and probably this is a conversation we will return to in later episodes as more stuff happens. But I'm like, at this point, what is Pruitt's flaw as a character? Like,
sure,
is it pride? Is it ego? Does he even really have a flaw in the classic sense, or is he really just kind of a human being who, he made a mistake by thinking that it was an angel, which it wasn't.
Is that a mistake, or was that a misconception primed by 80 years of strong religious fervor and conviction?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways. This is a thing I noticed on this viewing that I don't think I noticed before, is the way he describes when the vampire is feeding on him. He says that all of the fear drains out of him, and he's left with like this, what he seems to see as like a spiritual clarity, and then that's the moment when he looks at it and he sees an angel, and it's like that made me more open to the possibility that something kind of supernatural happened to him in that moment, and he perceived it in a different way because he was like vampire hypnotized, rather than just like he's a dum-dum who looks at that thing and thinks it's an angel. It's like, no, he was like bewitched by it.
I think he was bewitched by religion. I don't think he was bewitched, but that's my interpretation. I don't think there was any kind of magic vampire juju on him in that moment. I just think he was like primed to see this as a gift from God.
Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, I think that was my original interpretation. I was just more reconsidering.
I mean, you could be right. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I think I do think you're right. I mean, this is way too like tactical realism for me anyway. It's like I like your interpretation.
Yeah. But I mean, he immediately starts quoting scripture, right? Like the and I was sore afraid, right? That is straight out of the Bible. When people in the Bible see angels, that is what they say. So like, it's such a perfect moment because it so doesn't look like an angel. Like it's almost like Flanagan is betting on the absurdity of that scene of seeing that creature, seeing what it does, immediately going, oh yeah, vampire. And then hearing a person say, it was an angel. And that wonderful moment where it pulls back and Flanagan does like the lighted halo behind the head of this clearly monstrous, horrible looking creature. Perfect.
Well, no, I love your point that it's like you program yourself over years and years to see things a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I've ever told this story on air because I guess it's like personal, but also super relevant here. So like when I did my confirmation, you're in this long line and you've been like preparing for this ceremony for months and months. Huge time investment. Like going to like preparatory camps and doing service projects, huge amount of build up to this moment. And you're like in this like outfit robe thing, and you're with like your sponsor who's like a family member. It's like all of this like pressure and energy embedded in this moment. And then the priest, he puts an oil on your forehead, and like when he touched my forehead, like that was the moment of the ceremony essentially. It's like, now you're a confirmed Catholic. I felt this like wave of like warmth and like relaxation and like just wonderful sensation just like pass down my body. And it's like, if you are at all religiously inclined, it's like God put his finger on me. God, like I felt the touch of the Holy Spirit. All sorts of religious language of like, I felt the touch of God in that moment, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I think even at the time I was enough of a galaxy brain to be like, I sort of hypnotized myself into a highly suggestible state, and then I like all the tension released at the same time, and that's really kind of what it was. But I bring this up, which might seem tangential, to just say like that is my experience with like being primed to experience something, to the extent that your nervous system just like delivers you a spiritual experience because you were like so primed for it, right? And that's honestly, I was actually thinking about this in this vampirism scene, because it's like, yeah, you tell yourself a story enough times, that's just how you start to see the world and experience the world at a deep level, not just see. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, it's the same thing that allows Monsignor Pruitt to look at this vampire and see an angel is the thing that allows everyone in town to look at what happened to Lisa and see God. Like, of course that was God. Of course it was. There's no alternate explanation for it. But there is. and we know what the real explanation is, but even Riley and Sarah offer alternate explanations to that explanation. But like the idea that not only are we not going, like I love the moment when Lisa's parents, the mayor and his wife, basically say, we don't want to look into this. We don't want to know anymore. Like, we know what we need to know. It was a miracle. And like there's a lot of kindness in that scene. I love that moment when her mom like says, you know, like, honestly, we rent a house we used to own. We're surviving on food stamps and donations. We're barely scraping it together. And then immediately goes to her daughter's side and goes, oh, don't worry. It's worth it. You're worth every penny. We would do everything for you. It's a really wonderful, kind moment of like two legitimately good parents caring about their daughter. But at the same time, it's like the sentence of, doesn't it feel wrong to investigate a miracle? Doesn't it feel wrong to look further into a gift from God? It's like, no, it doesn't. Like even if you believe in God, it could still be a miracle that Lisa was mixed diagnosed, right? Like it depends on how you believe God operates. It's the old idea of like, God is going to save me, or someone's going to drive by on a boat and pluck, which is the miracle you're waiting for and which is the miracle you're expecting. And it's like I think there's a through line in this episode that I really wanted to inspect with you, which is the idea of knowledge being bad. And there's a line that Father Paul says, I think right before he's about to pass out, in I can't remember, he says, the more we know, the less we bend. The more brittle we become, the easier to break. And that is his argument. In this homily, he's basically saying, what God gives us is mysteries, and we have mysteries, and mysteries make this world wonderful and beautiful and exciting. And we can't, and the idea that we can't know anything, and the idea that children don't even try to know anything, every corner of everything, because everything is magical and wonderful to them. And isn't that just a wonderful state of being? And in a certain sense, I think he's correct. But in another sense, what he's basically saying is, don't understand anything. Just trust in God. Because knowing, I mean, this goes back to the Garden of Eden, right? This is the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, right? This was the original sin, was knowing and understanding and learning. And this is what the show is kind of telling us, is this idea that like that what this is doing to these people in particular is saying, don't learn more, don't understand, don't like know that this was given to you by God, and that's all you need to know, and there's nothing else.
Yeah. Yes. This particular aspect of Catholic dogma was always my kryptonite. But by which I mean the idea of these mysteries where it's like the Trinity. It's many, but also one. What does that mean? Don't shut up. Stop thinking. Just say it. We're going to magically turn the bread and wine into blood and flesh. Magic. Stop asking questions. It's a mystery. It's supposed to be a mystery. You're not supposed to know the answer, and wanting to know the answer just shows me that you're not faithful. You don't have faith. And I hate that. This is one of the places where I'm just like, I can't gel with this. Like there's a lot of neat ideas in the Christian religion and Catholicism, and this is just one that I just, even when I was like a little kid, was just like, no, I'm not gonna not think about it. You can't make me not think about it. I control my mind at the very least. Anyway.
I mean, that's it's so funny because that's how I was raised too. Like I have two very curious, inquisitive parents who always, like, especially my dad, who like wanted to learn, wanted to understand, know how things work, learn as much as you can about history, about people, about everything. And that is what was instilled in me. And it's not as if I think there are certain mysteries in our world, right? There are things that we don't understand and we might never understand. Like I think science it's constantly on the quest to understand as much as we can understand. And I think that's great. But there's always going to be a line when here's the known and that's the unknown. And the majority of us, the ones of us that are not professional scientists that spend their entire lives pushing into the unknown to try to understand it, like are just going to have to get to a point where we're okay not knowing, right? Like there is a certain point where you have to be like, why did this happen? I don't know. Sometimes there's not a reason for things, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that part of it, and that is the part that I think I identify with. But yeah, this specific idea of, I think a lot of like, what would I do in their situation, right? This is one thing I spent a lot of time thinking about this week. Like, if I witnessed a miracle, or if a miracle happened to one of my children, a miracle, right? How would I respond to it? How would I react to it? And I'm like, I would want to know as much as I possibly could about that, right? Like if it is truly unexplainable by science, I would want every test in the world to tell me that first, right? Yeah. I mean, obviously you want to, like, I would not want to put my daughter through like endless forever poking and prodding, but at the same point, like I would want to understand, like, there has to be a reason this happened.
Right.
And I will not be able to put it into the column of it was God until I know every other thing it was not.
Yeah. Right. I just see that as being responsible parenting, because you're responsible for their well-being. Mm-hmm. And you don't know, if you don't know why they got better, then you don't really understand what was wrong with them, is one way of looking at it. And
you don't know if it'll get worse too, right?
Exactly.
Like, that's the fear, right? Yeah.
That's what I mean, just in a very nuts and bolts way. It's like, okay, she was actually shot in the spine. That happened. Now her spine appears to have healed somehow, but like maybe it's super fragile, and she needs to not do certain things, or move in certain ways. I don't know. Like, they give a very practical response to this too. So it's kind of funny, actually. I mean, not like ha funny, but it's like they say, doesn't it feel wrong to interrogate a miracle? And then, like, in the same breath, they say, also, we can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so is your faith actually like working as essentially a cover for your lack of funds?
Mm-hmm.
And if you had the money to do this, or if someone were willing to do it for free, if the doctor were like, I have the machine right here, I'll just do it. I'll just use it on her right now. They probably would have said yes. It's more the matter of like, we can't really afford to spend any more money on this when she seems to actually be well now. So I just think that's kind of, again, kind of funny that it's a faith-based rhetoric, but actually it's a very practical justification.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that I really appreciate that the show is doing right now in this episode too, is we have this extended montage scene, right? It begins with Ed Flynn standing up and then putting another Neil Diamond song on his turntable. It's Holly Holy. Love that song. Really good song. And basically we see everything in Crockett is going great, right? Ed's back is fixed. He and his wife are dancing spryly like they're young. Lisa's walking around. She's doing great. Mildred, Sarah's mother, is slowly coming back from her disease and is regaining her personhood. And it's like this montage of like, and at the same time we're seeing the church kind of be invigorated and people show up and also there's this obvious like rekindling of love between Riley and Aaron that is happening throughout all this. And it's like this moment almost smack dab in the middle of the show where like everything's going great. It's just great. Because all the things that are happening to these people are objectively good, right? They're getting younger. They're happier. They're walking again. They're cured of their Alzheimer's. Yay! All the good things. No bad things. Hooray! And of course, we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop in that. And I just kind of love how we build that up because we are in this episode understanding finally the show is letting us in on why these things are happening. And that is kind of the thing hidden behind all the goodness is the true reason for it that no one is inspecting, that no one is interpreting, that this idea that like, hey, Ed, your back is fine now. You look visibly younger now too. I think we can say this now in the non-spoiler section. Like everyone is just looking visibly younger at this point.
Yeah.
There's that scene during the montage when Ed and Annie are sitting together in church, and I was like, oh yeah, that's we're close to just Henry Thomas being Henry Thomas now.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yep. That's definitely overt. Yeah, the structural conceit of weaving, like I guess that's one thing I wanted to say at some point, and this is as good a time as any, is like this is such a structurally interesting episode that we have the bookends essentially of the Father Pruitt confessions, which are also not just bookends, but they're flashbacks. I mean, in a second, I want to actually talk about like the horror scene in there, but
I figured you would.
Yeah. But first, just like we have the bookends, and then we also have this montage, like you said, where it's sort of intercutting with other stuff happening and the dancing and the music, and it's just a very structurally artful episode. I like that aspect of it a lot.
Yeah. And there's a moment in the middle of the montage too where we see Bev put the poison back on the shelf, and it's like this really quick moment where you're like, hey, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
What were you doing with that, Bev? What's going on there? And it just adds this additional element there where you're like, oh man, everything's going great for everyone, but I feel not good. And why do I feel not good? It's partly that, and it's partly that we're learning about Pruitt and what is actually we're slowly learning what's actually going on here. I love the moment where Warren goes back and sees Father Paul pour something into the wine. I think attentive viewers will have maybe said, oh, vampire blood at that point, but we don't know for sure really because we have not yet met the vampire or seen Paul Hill / Monsignor Pruitt meet the vampire yet. So you might not draw that conclusion quite yet, but he's pouring something in the wine. And then we start to think about that, and then that connects dots, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then it all leads to this realization that everyone's been poisoned by vampire blood, and that's why all the good things are happening.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. You suggested something to me earlier today that now that you pointed out Bev putting the rat poison away, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe you're right. Do you want to tell us your theory, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, and I'll be careful to kind of dance around spoilers a bit here. So at the end of this episode, Father Paul Hill dies, and is reborn. Which again, his journey being told in the Stations of the Cross, and then having him literally die and resurrect like Jesus is perfect. But I never really paid attention to the manner and way in which he died, and I always just kind of assumed that drinking vampire blood over time will just eventually kill you. But I was really interested by the inclusion of the scene with the poison. Like, what is Bev doing with the poison in this moment? And also the way in which Father Paul dies does visually remind me of the way in which the dog dies, which we know was poisoned.
Right.
So there is part of me that wonders, are we seeing just the long-term consequences of drinking the blood finally catch up with Father Paul? Which was, I think, my interpretation the first time I watched the show, was just, this is what happens when you consume this dude's blood. You're going to eventually get poisoned by it and die. And there's a part of the show that I think validates that, when Sarah is checking him out and basically says, you have a temperature and your heart's beating really fast. It seems like your body's trying to beat a virus. The virus perhaps being the vampirism that's trying to take him over. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, is that what killed him, or did he poison himself to make himself Jesus, right?
Yeah. Or Galaxy Brain, did Bev poison him to murder him? Now that's probably the least overtly supported, although we did just talk about how he's like encroaching on her territory as the religious leader of the community.
But one point on that, the thing that the show reveals to us is that Bev figures it out before even the show tells us, right? She goes into there, she follows him after the miracle, looks at the wall. The show kind of holds what she sees on the wall until the very, very end of the episode. But what she sees is a very old newspaper clipping of, I think, either the founding of St. Patrick's or Father or Monsignor John Pruitt's first day at St. Patrick's. And so we see a picture of him just looking like Paul Hill. And she sees that. And then there's a scene where he like walks out of the bathroom and they look at each other. And then we break, and we don't come back to this until the very end, when he is resurrected, and Bev says, "Oh, Monsignor, thank God, Monsignor," and she's just calling him Monsignor at that point.
Yeah.
And then we slowly zoom in on the photo, and it allows us to see it.
Yeah.
So we have to assume that in between those two moments, he has, I mean, maybe not filled her in on like what he's doing, but that they've had a conversation and come to an understanding about, why do you look exactly like Monsignor John Pruitt?
Yeah.
And maybe he's told her, and I think the show makes it very clear that he has told her, well, I am.
Yeah.
And maybe this happened to me, and maybe she's in on it. But what level she's in on it, I don't know.
The similarities of, like, I'm almost at the very, Doyleistic level, like, why show the dog's death and then have his death be so similar looking, if we're not going to say, if we're not meant to connect those two things. Like, it was funny when you pointed out the possibility, I was like, nah. And then like 2 hours, later, I'm like, no, that's 100% what it was. He was poisoned by the rat poison. The question is just like, when and why did he think it was a good idea? Maybe like did he know that he would resurrect? A little unclear on some of these details, but I really like this idea though.
I mean, I think the big mysteries of the show still at this point is like, okay, so we got this angel. What does it want, right? Like, one thing that the Monsignor Pruitt's story tells us is that he finds this thing, it bites him, and then feeds him its blood, which is how you create a vampire. And then it decides to follow him on his return to Crockett Island. Like, this whole scene of like, he goes and he waits and the vampire eventually flies. And why does it do that? what does it want, right? That's one thing we don't know is what is the vampire getting at all this, besides maybe some food.
Yeah,
but it could have gotten food in Jerusalem too. So
it's true. It sees something in him that is appealing beyond just feeding on random people.
I mean, it definitely like has a reaction to him praying, right? Like, because that is like, it bites him, then he starts praying, and then it takes a step back, and then that's when it decides to feed him, to feed him its own blood. So, and it's also like spying on Sheriff Hassan's relationship with his son about how God works. So it's like, maybe it's just like super into God, the vampire. It's like,
I mean,
maybe it is an angel, Matt. Do you ever think about that?
I kind of have. I mean, a demon is a demon is an angel, first of all.
Sure.
If we're being like another possibility, and this is not, I think this is not any kind of spoiler because it's not a fact so much as a surmise that maybe ties to things that happen later. But I'm just like, maybe this angel is a priest. Like maybe this is what happens when you are this kind of vampire and you're literally buried underground in an old church. He was in an old church, right?
I mean, was that a church, or did Pruitt just assume that's a church?
I think this is one of those cases where I just took him at his word, because you're totally right that it might not be, but I don't know. It felt like a moment where it's like you find the vampire locked up in the church, and maybe this is just this is kind of what we're saying is like these things they feed on the faithful. That's their preferred prey because they know that they can sort of get their vampire. What's the word? Coven is not the right word. There's a word.
Coven works.
Coven, yeah, their vampire coven. That's easier to do when you have a community of isolated faithful.
Yeah. Maybe he like in the night flew to all his vampire buddies and was like, "This fucker believes I'm an angel. I'm just gonna follow him and just see what happens."
Yeah, this is wild. This is,
yeah. I think it is the talking of Sheriff Hassan really wants me to go back to him. We're kind of jumping all over the place today. I think we usually do that, so it's fine. So we have this wonderful scene where Hassan kind of demonstrates tries to demonstrate to Bev, like, this is what Muslims believe. We actually do believe in Jesus. We just don't believe he's the son of God. We goes through all this stuff, like defines his religion and what he believes essentially, and says that he would be fine with his son in the quest of knowledge, reading the Holy Bible, asking these questions. And then we see that scene with Ali where he basically says, I want to go to church on Sunday. Well, a lot of I want to go check that place out and see what it's all about. And Hassan is like, no, absolutely not. And
no, no, I don't think so.
Ali like makes a really good point in that, why am I Muslim? Because you were. And that's like that's one just truism of religion, is like, why do you believe the religion you believe? Well, because my parents did, and their parents did, and their parents did, and their parents did. And like, that's why you and I were raised Catholic, right? Because going back however many generations you want to go back, we were Catholic. So that's what you do. But then he gets into this whole conversation with him that I think is really great. I think, Rahul Kohli's performance here, I think is excellent. That's the idea of that's not how God works, right? The idea of like, he believes in God, he does, but God doesn't like pick and choose miracles. I think what he says is it's not magic, right? It's just not how it works. It's not magic. It's just not. And I love this as a declarative statement of the show, and it's something I happen to agree with. But I also really love it as a character moment for Sheriff Hassan, because the truth of the matter is he needs it to be that way, right? Yeah. Because what we learn about is that his wife, we knew she was dead. His wife dies of pancreatic cancer. And that she was devout even up until the moment of her death, and that he actually converted for her, he would converted to Islam
God
for her.
really work that way.
And so I really think it's such a powerful moment of like,
that he was going
the show is making a declarative statement, yes, but it's also making a very important character statement, which is that
to spare some and not others.
For Hassan's entire worldview, it cannot be true that God picks and chooses who he's going to grant miracles to and who he's not. Because if that is true, then God has denied my wife
That's not
and allowed her to die. And I cannot accept that. And I will not
That's
accept
not how
that.
God works.
And therefore, that cannot be the way God works, right?
Yeah.
I think there's just a powerful character moment.
That's one of my favorite moments in a fantastic episode of solid great moments, right? Great character moment, a great comment on this idea, ties into this theodicy conversation we keep having where it's like, okay, wait a second, if God is actually taking a hand here to heal and help this one girl, okay, cool, but why her and why not all the other people who are suffering? Like God picks favorites, God just randomly does things like that's offensive. And I mean, it's kind of funny because like every religion actually does say, yes, God picks favorites, we're his favorites. So it's an interesting sort of late 20th century like universalist take to be like, God doesn't pick favorites, he loves us all. It's like, no. Every religion thinks that they're right and that God likes them specifically. But it's also a very human response to be like, if like God letting my wife die and helping this other person means that like basically God is no friend of mine, which is a existentially devastating position to be in, to feel like you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I mean, we know that he's right? That this was not a miracle. This was not God deciding that Lisa Scarborough was worth saving. This was manual intervention by a really old priest and his angel friend. I mean, I kind of have tried to refrain from talking too much about my personal beliefs on all this stuff because it's very personal to me and it's weird talking about. But this is just something everything Hassan says in the scene is something I just fully believe. It's just it's the bottom of my heart. Like, this is not the way it works. This is not the way anything works. There is no picking and choosing and saving some and not saving other. That's not how any of this stuff works. And I think that's almost a necessary belief to have to live in this world and to believe anything close to anything like this.
Yeah. I think like it's a really interesting feature of Catholicism specifically where, Catholics will like often want some kind of call from the Pope where it's like, what happened to all the souls that were born before Christ? What happens to all the souls that are born never hearing of Christ? Because it bugs us. It bugs us to be like, it's not fair. It's cosmically unfair, this idea that salvation is denied to people. Yes, those people have nothing to do with me. I don't know them. I never knew them. But that's just so unfair. And I just think it's kind of a cool feature of the religion, actually, that it's like, we have a carve out for that.
Everyone got together. They had a Zoom meeting in heaven, and they figured it out.
Yeah,
and we're good now.
Yeah, they just have to spend a little bit more time in the waiting room, basically.
Yeah. What a great idea. I mean, like, so much of the stuff is just, so much of the dogma is just, like, I mean, you can almost understand why the Catholic religion just finally said, all right, you know what? Knowledge is bad. Stop asking me fucking questions.
Yeah, and they were right. Look what happened with the Protestants and everything.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So I'm trying to think of how to frame this question for you.
Okay.
So I think we started talking about Father Paul, and then we kind of got distracted. Monsignor Pruitt.
Yeah.
I think we got distracted by other stuff. So I want to kind of bring it back to him. And one thing that I think is really interesting about him, you asked like what his flaws are, what is causing him to do these things. And one scene I really liked was the scene right after the miracle where he is once again with Riley in the convention center. By the way, forgot to point this out last week. And by forgot, I mean I didn't notice it. The Oculus mirror is in the convention center. It is on the stage. It's like half covered by a cloth, but it's there. It's there in the background. You can see it.
Awesome.
But so we have the scene, and it's basically Riley, like his own kind of worldview is a little rocked right now too, because like he doesn't know what to make of this. He's like, I don't believe this was a miracle. However, there's some things I can't explain, and I need someone to explain it to me. And so he's really challenging, and he starts the conversation off in a very like sarcastic way where he's like, oh yeah, you better get ready. You're probably going to get a call from the news, and everyone's going to want to hear about the miracle that happened at St. Patrick's. And the way Pruitt deals with this from Riley, I think is so fascinating. This is again another just aces performance from Hamish Linklater. He says all the correct things, which is like, don't let your right hand see what your left hand's doing or whatever. Like it's not about me. It's not about it. It's not about the attention. It's not about any of these things. It's not about any of that. I would, of course, refuse any interview. But you can kind of tell he's like really enjoying it too, right? Like you can kind of tell there's a part of him that's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool that I got to do this, and now everyone's kind of really into me, and I'm going to be getting a bunch of attention, and I mean like the show positions him as Christ, like right, like it literally does the Station of the Cross thing with the way he's telling the story, and then has him reborn at the end of the episode. So, you know, talking your question of like what is his flaw, I think he does have some flaws. I think he is. Like I think the thing we essentially learn here is that he has the best intentions of the town, right, at heart. I'm going to bring this angel home, and I'm going to bestow the gift that was given me to these people who deserve it more than anyone. But that in is of itself, like, kind of antithetical to what God is supposed to be. Like you were taking this upon yourself. You are making yourself the savior, and in this very specific kind of way. And so I think you asked that question, like, I think it is a little bit of egotism. It is a little bit of the problems we have a lot of priests where the Catholic Church kind of teaches you that, you know, there are people, and then there are priests, and then there's the Pope, and then there's God. And it is this very hierarchical thing where a priest is better than you. Sorry, parishioner. The priest is better than you. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of my 45 minutes later answer to your central question.
Yeah, I think I basically am aligned with you. I think like it's really interesting, I guess, that Pruitt is portrayed as, we've said it many times, he's sort of the perfect priest. He's not necessarily like hip in trying to seem cool, but he's just very wise, and his words are measured, and the things that he says seem to be calibrated basically to help, to soothe pain, to help with spiritual struggle. He's doing everything right, but at the same time he's lying, he's tricking everyone, and he's doing it for reasons that he believes are good. But these reasons also happen to be extremely flattering to his own personal ego.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. The show hasn't really like taken us to this place. So that's why I think this will be a conversation that we continue over subsequent episodes. But it's like, would you be so eager to give your flock vampire blood if this weren't personal? And if this weren't going to reflect super well on you when you get to be the savior?
Yeah.
And I kind of just want to leave it there, honestly, because the how that plays out, I think, is going to be interesting, but we're not really there yet.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. And and it also gets back to this one moment that I really liked, which is the thing that Riley can't square. The one thing that he can't understand is how Paul knew that Lisa could walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he orchestrated this whole thing. He did it in the most attention-getting way possible.
You went back up
in order to drive people to the parish, presumably to feed them vampire blood. But that's the one thing he can't understand is how could you know that? He says that specifically. How could you know that?
I'm asking.
And what
how did you know that?
Paul says to him is essentially like, I could tell you I just felt it. I felt something.
So connected to her at that.
But you wouldn't believe me. That I just felt connected to her and I just knew. I could tell you that, but you wouldn't believe me.
Is it Riley?
And there was a reaction I had to that originally. It was like, oh, so you're just lying again.
I suppose I want more.
You're just a liar. Like all you're doing is lying, and this miracle happens, and you're just sitting there lying about all of it. And then I thought about it more, and I thought, no, I think he's actually telling the truth there. I think the lie he's doing is a lie of omission, that he knows why he feels connected to this person in a way. But I think it is true, even as the way the scene is presented, that he looked at Lisa in this moment, in this mass, in this time, and knew, now I can do this now. She is ready to walk now. Because I think what Riley says is true, that like if he had done this and she couldn't walk, they're fucking done with him. It's an incredibly cruel, awful, terrible thing to do. So they would have just run him out of town. And so I think there is some magic vampire voodoo happening here, that they are both connected to each other via the angel and the angel's blood. And so he is able to sense on some level, which is a really clever way of like, because really most of the lying he does is these very convenient lies of omission, where he's technically telling Riley the truth. He's just leaving out the key parts of it.
Yeah. That's a perfect example. You're right. I mean, he does just know, but he gives the impression that it's like God told him, and it's actually just this, dark, the dark passengers whispering to him.
It's a technicality, because again, you could say that yes, he believes that the angel came to him as a gift from God, came to him to give him this gift and to allow him to give this gift to everyone else. So the miracle is not Lisa is suddenly able to walk. Obviously, he knows exactly why Lisa is suddenly able to walk, but the miracle in his mind is, I found this angel. And I brought this angel here. That's the miracle. So when I tell you a miracle is happening here, when I get up on the homily and say metaphor? No, God tells us.
God tells us.
Like when he goes through that wonderful performed homily, he's never lying.
Yeah.
He's just leaving some stuff out.
Yeah. That's such a great, I'm glad you reminded me of the homily, because it's simultaneously like a totally plausible homily that a priest could give, but also like extremely pointed, because he's literally saying to them like all of the magic in the Bible is real. I'm telling you that, and now you're in a position where you're super receptive to that message because you just witnessed a miracle, and I'm about to show you a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
That's the subtext, is he hasn't yet told them he's going to do more miracles, but he knows he is, because that's how this is going to play out.
What he's about to say when he collapses is rebirth, second chances, eternal life, and he doesn't quite finish eternal life. Now, a Catholic would hear that phrase and be like, yeah, so we're going to live our lives, we're going to die, we're going to go to heaven and have eternal life, right? Yeah. Or we could do that right now.
Right. I mean, it's interesting to consider the possibility that he was planning on dying right there. And
maybe. And
resurrecting right there. And like his plan just didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean,
could be. Yeah.
I don't know. That would be, now that that's occurred to me, I'll have to think about that. Yeah. I mean, I have so much more I could say about Father Pruitt, but I think we'll have to just wait to talk about that.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I kind of want. I mean, I know we're somewhat wrapping up. I want to talk about the terrifying scene in the church, we'll call it, under the sands of Jerusalem.
I love this because I watched the scene and said, darkness and light.
Yeah.
I bet Matt's going to want to talk about this scene.
Yeah, it's the best. So I don't know. I'm going to do the thing where I just describe it because it's awesome. Where he's down there, he has he lights a match. He's looking around. The match slowly goes out. He sees the eyes in the darkness, gasps, and you're like, "What the? Is it gonna?" Like you kind of know, but basically what it probably is at this point in the story. But he certainly doesn't. Lights another match, looking around, can't see it, looking all different directions. It's being shot in that way where you're like, it's gonna be right behind him. It's gonna be right behind him. Match goes out, fumbling to get the third match going. I love how long it takes. Like you can hear the sound design is great as you're just like, light the match, and then he lights the third match and it's right there, and it gets him. And then the detail that I love the most is the match falls aside and it kind of dims and you're just watching, like, struggling in the darkness. And then that match catches the matchbook on fire, and then it flares, and then it's just like beautifully lit, like the creature and the shadows playing against the ceiling, and it's just gorgeous. Again, more like everything about this is just this mastery of using total darkness and strategic illumination to just paint the picture beautifully. This is my favorite thing. I love this so much.
It's really good. I think it's very effective. I knew you were going to bring up the matchbook thing because it's such a creative way to solve the problem of, like, we want to light this a certain way. We want people to be able to see this a certain way, but how do we bring light to this place? And it's like, let's have the matchbook catch on fire, and then we get this really cool effect. And yeah, I think it's really great.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to talk about, like, camera wise, is going back to the scene with Riley and Pruitt in the AA meeting. We've seen this scene multiple times throughout the course of the episode so far, and in this version of it, Flanagan chooses to shoot it in a slightly different way. What he does is he puts a camera above and behind one person looking down on another person, and he does it with a wide angle lens, which causes, like, the edge of the frame to kind of curve a little bit. And it had an effect for me where, like, it really made the pattern of the flooring stick out to me in a way that I had never really paid attention to before. And the pattern's really weird. If you, like, actually study the pattern of the floor, it does this like each color goes, like, up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, and it does that all the way for each color. And it makes it took me a while to see that pattern, but it makes, like, almost this kind of random mosaic of color with the wide angle lens. It's just like a very dramatic feeling shot in those moments. It's not shot at all the way those scenes were shot in the last episode. It is entirely different, and I think it demonstrates the way their relationship is changing and evolving.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, we talked a lot about how the way it was shot in the last episode emphasizes the distance between them, and yeah, changing and evolving is what's happening. Totally.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you mentioned the way that Pruitt is often like a good priest, and how that frustrating that is when compared to his less good priest moments. In the scene with Joe Colley in the AA meeting, I actually love when Father Paul basically calls Riley out on his bullshit.
Yeah.
When he's like, I mean, he says the word bullshit. It's perfect. It's just like, I don't think I can talk to anyone about
that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Drinking.
That's bullshit.
And,
you've been coming here once a week, sometimes
Paul
more,
is perfectly like, no, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Of course you can. Yeah. You can say something to him that no one else can say. And what he says is perfect, right? I'm trying to get back to it.
You showed up.
You showed up, Joe. You're here. That's enough. It won't be forever, but tonight it is. For tonight, it's everything.
It won't be forever.
And that's like the single best thing you could say to him in that moment. And it leads to this wonderful scene where the two of them are walking they're walking back, basically, which is all shot as a oneer. It's a walk and talk that Flanagan shoots as a oneer, which, by the way, Joe Colley says shows to go you, doesn't it? Instead of goes to show you. And I like to think, I have no evidence of this whatsoever. I like to think he just flubbed the line, but it's a oneer, and so they just ran with it. Probably not. It probably just represents like Joe Collie is kind of messed up, right? And he would do something like that. But I don't know. I really liked it. But that whole scene where they're walking, I think is predicated on Riley speaking up in the meeting, which is predicated on Father Paul Hill pushing him, right? And so it's like this kind of constant push and pull with this guy, and that I think is just really fascinating.
Yeah. I agree. That's one comment, I guess, on Pruitt, just in reference to that, is like, maybe you don't get that kind of effective spiritual leadership without a bit of an ego. And the ego is his Achilles heel, but also damned if he's not a good priest, actually, when he's trying to just like help the person in front of him.
Yeah.
You wish he could just do that, right? You wish he could just help the person in front of him, but we as people, we always want to be a little grander and have a little bit more of the spotlight. And that's kind of the sharpened up version of the question that I wanted to ask about him, is like, is he any worse of a person? Does he have any bigger of an ego than your average person? You know, does he have an exceptionally big ego, or is it just like you take a normal ego and you sort of supercharge it with faith, and then kind of dangerous things can happen from that point? I don't know. We can talk about it going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great, and I think that's great to keep in mind as we go forward, because I like this idea that, like, you know, what we said earlier was, you take something like Catholicism, and in the hands of benevolent, kind people, it's wonderful, but in the hands of monsters, it's horrible. But I think one thing that is an interesting point the show could be making, and we'll have to see, is perhaps there's something about this in general that can just take an average person that is not better or worse than anyone else, and allow them to do something terrible.
Or even a good person who is better than most people.
Sure. Yeah.
I like that. That's very provocative. That's a good kind of note there. Yeah.
Speaking of the Joe and Riley conversation, I really love when Riley says to him, "I'm glad you were there, Joe," and his response is, "Wait, you really are, aren't you?" What a fucking trip!
You really are.
Like the idea that this poor man, just like, everyone hates me, nobody wants me around, and like the idea that Riley was genuine in saying that, I'm glad that you were there.
Yeah,
is like so shocking to him.
Yeah. Nobody's ever said this to him, and he's been in this self-imposed purgatory, you know, staying on the island because that was the punishment that he thought he deserved. This place where everyone hates him. And now someone has been genuinely kind to him.
Felt too easy. You can't just leave. Felt too easy. It's like, no, Joe.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
Get out of there, Joe. Another thing I wanted to point out to you, Mike Flanagan shows up once again in this episode. Did you see him?
Nope.
At the very beginning of the Father Paul flashback, when he is at the Wailing Wall, and kind of lost, a priest comes up to him and says, "Hey, Monsignor, come on, we're this way. That's Mike Flanagan." So he gets a speaking role. He's not just in the background; he actually gets to talk. It's lines.
That's pretty funny. I wonder if for a second Hamish Linklater was like, "Oh, sorry, let me." Oh, you're in character. Yeah.
So did you? Okay, that's a good question that I meant to ask you. We see Monsignor Pruitt at the very beginning of the episode. Do you remember immediately going, "Oh, that's Hamish Linklater in old age makeup"?
Not immediately, but I think I was pretty quickly like, that is a man in old age makeup.
Yeah.
And then kind of, I don't, this was a long time ago, so I can't really tell you honestly, but I feel like there was a point in the way things are playing out where, just due to the story he's telling and what you're seeing with your eyes, you're just like, he's obviously telling a story about himself. I don't know what point that was exactly.
I do really love when
behind him.
He switches very naturally from he did this. He walked out of the cave in the morning and looked up at the bright sun and saw that he was young again, and then just like effortlessly switches to I. I love that moment.
Yeah, me too.
To really seal what has just occurred here. I love it.
Yeah.
What else? We haven't talked much about Riley himself this episode, right? He's doing step 4 of AA, the Fearless Moral Inventory. I really love his budding relationship with Erin and how, Erin's such an interesting character because we did talk about her attempts to stand up to Bev Keane and she kind of failed. Not blaming her for that, but really just wished in that moment that she would just shut the fuck up, Bev. Let me talk. But her and Riley's relationship continued to evolve, and she continues to be this kind of like rock for Riley specifically, where like he's talking about the struggle he's been having with the program and says, I did step 4 in my Fearless Moral Inventory, and I've learned that I'm a coward. And she's just no, stop it.
Don't do that.
She's like immediately shuts that down.
Don't
She's
talk
like,
about
nah,
yourself like
don't
that.
Don't talk about yourself that way. Really love the detail of that, and I love their relationship. And
yeah, it's interesting. I love that. That's one of those writing sort of like, there's levels to dialogue writing, and there's dialogue writing where you're just like, that's a level above wherever I am, because it's like that's kind of him trying to be a little funny and self-deprecating, but also he's sneaking in how he honestly sees himself.
Yep.
And she totally sees through that, and instead of playing along with this little self-deprecating haha thing, is like, no, shut up. I'm not gonna indulge you on this. You're not a coward. What you're doing is hard. Anyone would feel intimidated by this. She does exactly what she needs to do. She's actually helping him in an uncomplicated way. So
yeah, definitely. Anything else you want to talk about?
Just like a little spoiler stuff we can talk about after we do these discussion questions answers. Sure.
That sounds good. So let's wrap it up then. Episode 3, a pretty good one, Matt. I would say best one so far.
I agree.
All right. All right, Matt, let's get to discussion question.
All right. Yeah. So the discussion question last week was, what's your favorite prodigal son story from some other piece of fiction? Mm-hmm. Witty Day 1992 says, this is my first time watching Midnight Mass. And I also grew up Catholic, so it is hitting some childhood memories for me.
I'm sorry.
They say, for the discussion question, I will pick another Catholic. My favorite prodigal son is Michael Corleone from the Godfather movies. Long story short, he spends his youth avoiding the family business, enlists and serves in World War II against his family's wishes, but in the long run, he comes home and takes over the family, getting the respect of the family that his older brother Fredo felt should have gone to him.
Aw.
Holy crap, that's like a perfect prodigal son story, actually. It's like literally what happened.
It is. Yeah, that's by design, Matt.
I never really saw it that way.
House of Seven Paws says, I love the 2000 movie You Can Count on Me. Mark Ruffalo is the charming, reckless fuck-up who's come home needing support, and Laura Linney is the serious-minded sibling who stayed in their hometown. But there's no father in this version. They're orphans, and Linney's character is raising a child of her own. Her kid is the one who's overjoyed to see the prodigal show up, while she, like the faithful son in the story, is frustrated by feeling like her brother has gotten a pass for his bullshit and hasn't really changed his ways. Or is it just that she envies his freedom and wishes she could be reckless too, which she sort of starts trying to do with mixed results?
Huh. Cool.
I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, that sounds like it's got some of the same elements, but is exploring them in a creative and new way. That's fun. Apocalypse Win 7 says, my favorite prodigal son story comes from Ordinary People, aka that movie that robbed Raging Bull at the Oscars. But they say, hot take, I think it's the better film, so sue me. The plot follows a teenage boy played by Flanagan alum Timothy Hutton in one of his earliest roles, who recently returned from a psychiatric hospital following a suicide attempt. The young man blames himself for the death of his older brother in a boating accident, and it turns out his own mother blames him too. Lots of parallels to Riley's story in Midnight Mass. One parent, in this case the father, tries to reconnect and establish a relationship with the prodigal son. The other parent tries to return to normalcy while quietly seething and resentful. And the young man is just trying to find a path forward in the face of an unforgivable mistake.
I have seen that movie. You know who directed that one?
Who?
Robert Redford.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I feel like
Rest
we talked about that. Yeah. I like that. That's, man, it's making me realize how popular of a dynamic this is, because you definitely got some elements mixed around, but the idea of, you know, the son returning to the flock and everyone having complicated feelings about it, that's definitely a common story type.
Yep. Darren Longbeard says 1994's Legends of the Fall is a pretty interesting adaptation of the prodigal son concept. Essentially, this is early 20th century Montana, and the family has 3 brothers. One brother, Samuel, played by Henry Thomas, engages a young lady and brings her back to the ranch. The brothers all go off to World War I, but Samuel dies. The other 2 brothers, Brad Pitt and Aidan Quinn, return home and start to build out the homestead. And could you believe it? They both fall in love with Samuel's fiancée. Wild, am I right? Tensions rise. Pitt's character feels guilt about betraying his dead brother, so he runs away, while the third brother, clearly guiltless, marries this very much sought-after lady. After some hardships on his own, Pitt character returns home, and things boil over as you'd expect. The story spans 50-ish years, and it's really tragic but interesting dive into complicated family dynamic.
Cool.
They say, side note, I'm a straight man, very happily married to a woman for 10 years. But there's a scene where Brad Pitt returns home, cresting over the countryside with a bunch of wild horses chasing behind him. And, well, it stirs a man.
Look, Brad Pitt doesn't count.
The only thing I remember about Legends of the Fall is that my older sister, as a teenager in 1994 when this came out, was extremely into this movie for the Brad Pitt of it all.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I might have seen it, but I don't remember it very well. But
I don't think I've ever seen it. I just remember my sister being obsessed with it because of Mr. Pitt.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Finally, Bent Westward says, after seeing the trailer for Nolan's upcoming film, I immediately thought of Homer's The Odyssey as the ultimate prodigal son story. It's about a man who leaves home, faces countless trials, and spends years wandering far from everything he loves, only to fight his way back and reclaim his place. Unlike a simple return home, Odysseus' journey shows that coming home is really about earning redemption, restoring relationships, and proving your worth after being lost. It's epic, it's emotional, it's about a dude that decides to go on an adventure with his homies for 10 years instead of coming home to his wife. If I did that, I'd be in the doghouse.
I love this because it's an answer that technically predates the prodigal son parable.
Yeah. Well, that isn't that cool? Because like I find that there are like really interesting similarities and also really interesting differences, because like the prodigal son parable is almost about how, you know, the younger son is like, he didn't do anything to deserve your grace, Dad. Like, you're just forgiving him for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Odysseus' story is really about, like, he screwed up, he insulted Poseidon, he paid for it real bad, and now he comes back and everybody's taking his shit and he has to kill some dudes. And it's like, yeah, it's very much more like, yeah, you do kind of have to earn your way back into the graces of the family. So that's an interesting, like, yeah, compare contrast exercise. Thanks, Bent Westward.
I like it.
And then just rapidly go through the rest of the answers. We got a lot of answers this week. Busy Dad 82 said Edmund from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe as C.S. Lewis's version of the prodigal son. OK Row 2424 says Guapo from El Guapo versus the Narco Vampires YouTube animation, finding redemption after his brother's sacrifice.
What?
Okay. Kat Chepsit reads, says Mulan as child who left under shady circumstances, returning home to excitement despite doubts. Yeah. Mulan is definitely the prodigal son. Aqua Lungfish says Sam Winchester from Supernatural, leaving family for college, returning to monster hunting family business. You
I've
like
never
Supernatural.
seen Supernatural. No, never seen. Not an episode.
Neither have I. DJ Nibelko says Bruce Wayne from Batman Begins, returning to Gotham with purpose versus Riley seeking purpose. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I never thought of Never thought of that. Yeah, me too. Don Zest says Pat Solitano from Silver Linings Playbook returning after a mental health breakdown to live with his parents. Oh yeah.
You know, Don Zest, it's too soon. The Eagles lost this weekend and they're out of the playoffs. I'm very upset. So I know you didn't know that was going to happen when you answered this question this way, but too soon.
Yeah. Are you empathizing with this character? Are you going to wear a trash bag around now?
No, I'm just going to be really sad and kind of miserable to be around until I talk myself into the fact that we're definitely going to go back to the Super Bowl next year and win, and it's all going to be fine.
Gotcha. All right. Odin's Ghost 31 says Timothy Chalamet in The King as the black sheep becoming the great reluctant king. Sandy Bones says Gideon Gemstone from the Righteous Gemstones. I mean, that's a show about a megachurch family, so it is in this case like literally like textually a prodigal son story. Okay. It's great. It's a great answer. Cool. Finally, Pear Jane says every Hallmark Christmas movie and Brick from Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Tin Roof. Yes, every Hallmark Christmas movie, yes, because they're all about the character coming back to their hometown where their high school sweetheart has stayed and their family has stayed, and they have to and they're welcome back. Yes, I see what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, but normally they're not like destitute and suffering. They're like super rich.
Yeah.
And have achieved success in every way, but they're just missing something.
Right.
And that something is the grace of God, clearly.
Yeah, they're on their cell phone, their giant brick cell phone from the 90s.
Yeah. Those bastards.
Yeah.
Great answers, everyone. Thank you. That was really fun. I enjoyed that.
Me too.
Which brings us to next question, Matt. What are we asking the people for a couple episodes from now?
Next week's question, is what's your favorite miracle?
Interpret that.
Yep.
As you will.
Less said, the better. Favorite miracle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I am partial to the one on 34th Street, but you guys do you.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Let's ring the bell. We're ringing the bell. The spoiler section is coming. Here we go. Ring the bell. Spoilers. All right, Matt. What did you want to talk about?
Sarah.
Who we conveniently did not talk about very much in the in the normal part of the episode because there's so much I want to say about her, but can't yet.
Yeah. I think you and I were talking about this earlier. We were like, is the reveal that he's your father basically the primary remaining spoiler?
I think so.
Other than, I suppose, the fact that the show ends in a gigantic bloodbath. And like the order in which people die and so forth. Yeah. I mean, I think, I think so. So that was, an element that I think is hinted at many times in this episode where, first of all, she keeps showing up, right? Like she's trying to help Erin with her pregnancy. We see scenes of this. Mm-hmm. That's another moment I'm not looking forward to, by the way.
That's coming next week.
Yeah.
I think it's like the first thing that happens in the episode.
Yeah. We'll talk about. I already have plans for talking about that.
Okay.
And then she's helping Father Pruitt, who is sort of dismissing her concerns, but also trying to compliment her and connect with her as a person, but doing a terrible job at it because I think he's kind of in his head about the fact that he's her father.
Yeah. Well, what he says to her is like. He says, like, you're doing such a great job. You do such a great job. You take care of the people, me, your mother, the people of this town.
Take care of people.
It's one of those, like, it's right in front of you once you know it thing where he says, me and your mother.
Yeah. And he says, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Which she's just like nonplussed by. She's like, okay, cool, I guess. Yeah. I'm proud of you too.
Well, I mean, I think the important thing with this and the thing that we haven't really talked about for obvious reasons is that on a high level, Monsignor Pruitt is coming back to this town to help the people of the town that he loves, mm-hmm. to resurrect this poor place from the ashes. However, the primary reason that he's coming back to this town is to make the love of his life young again and give them a second chance. Like this is this kind of constant refrain of second chances, of ability to do this over, of do-overs, of this in the middle of his homilies. These things are there again and again and again, and because one of the primary things he's thinking of is, I have made myself young. I am going to make her young, and then we can finally be together.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to deal with that when we get to it and talk about the ramifications of that. But I mean, it is interesting. That's one of the things that was really sticking out to me, is how much that is kind of laced throughout everything he says about what's going to happen here and what he's doing.
I think you're right. And there was a lot of dancing around that I was doing when we were talking about him. And like,
yeah, I could tell that's what you meant, is the selfishness actually of what he's doing here.
And the fact that he's kind of in denial about that. Like, I think if you asked him, if Bev asked him or someone, he would be like, I want to help the people of this island. And that's not a lie. He does want to help the people of this island. He is a great, like, he is about as selfless as a person gets. and I mean, I maybe that sounds like misanthropic, but it's like, look, there's he really does want to help these people, but also he wants to be with this woman who he loves, who he broke his vows for. Yeah. He regrets. I think he regrets that he didn't get to be part of his daughter's life. I'm sure this eats him up, and he sees this as a kind of redemption for him to say, hey, I can make good on this mistake that I made. And that's I think, like you said, a huge part of his motivation, and probably not a part that he has acknowledged.
Hey, can I just leave a note for the Catholic Church?
Sure.
Let priests get married.
But then they wouldn't be magical anymore.
No. Do you know the story of why this is, right?
No.
Why they instituted this rule? First of all, it's not in the Bible. There's absolutely nothing in the Bible there's nothing about like priests in the Bible. So like this is all Catholic. This is all Catholic bullshit dogma. It's all about inheritance and ownership. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah. It is, if you are unmarried, then when you die, the things you have will go to the church and not your descendants. And that's it. That is it. That's the whole thing. And they built up some bullshit around it about being married to God or with it. And it's like one of the biggest things that the Catholic Church could do to, if it wants to really pump up its numbers, because I don't know if this is true, but I remember when we were younger, there's a severe shortage of priests right now. Like a lot of Catholic priests are older. Because young people are not going into Catholicism like they were, especially into the priesthood. And man, you let them fall in love, get married, have children, like almost every other religion does. You would probably see more people in that religion. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, I wonder, I'm not a historian of this sort of thing. I mean, I know there were like, orders, right, where you could have vows of celibacy, but that's not, you can still even have that if you want, but
sure,
but like separate that from like the priest being the leader of the community.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere recently a fairly compelling argument is too strong a word, just an observation of like the social role of the preacher's wife as as being distinct from the social role of the preacher in Protestant communities, where it's like, yeah, you are organizing the community in a sort of opposite polarity, but you have the preacher's wife sort of has authority over a different sphere of things than the preacher does. And in fact, it would be weird and invasive if the preacher had opinions about these things. With the preacher's wife, she's just a normal person like us. And how the Catholic Church really sort of is missing a trick by not having priests have a wife who can serve that role. It is like, I doubt that our podcast episode is going to cause the Catholic Church to reconsider this, but it was a thought that I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me logically.
Disagree.
No.
The Pope is listening.
He might be. He's a very progressive Pope.
He is so progressive. He's super in to Mike Flanagan, and very. Can you imagine the reaction if someone heard that the Pope not only watched but enjoyed a midnight mass? It's very possible.
Yeah,
he could have.
He could have.
We got to write to the Pope.
We could.
Can we? We're confirmed. Can we just lie and say we're practicing Catholics?
It's a spectrum, is the way I see it.
There you go. I think we can get an audience with the Pope. I think we can pull the Pope.
I think so.
Can you pretend that you're like a really big Chicago Bears fan for me?
I love basketball.
Oh no. Oh no. We just lost him. We lost the Pope. The one other thing I feel like in our spoiler section, we're so much more loose because we know we've lost about half of our listeners. I did want to talk to you. So we kind of danced around the poison and whether or not Father Pruitt, Monsignor Pruitt was poisoned to die. I think we talked about this like we don't know. And I think the reason is because I don't know if the show ever actually like comes right out and says this or not. I think one thing that I thought about was that if not he was poisoned, then the Bev pulling the poison down is her laying the seeds for what happens in the church in a couple episodes, right? Because I think it's a couple episodes from now that this is how everyone is killed, is they drink the poison, die, and come back, right?
Yeah, that was maybe my previous assumption. Or maybe I just never thought about it, honestly, because you're right that the poison being in that montage is like jarring and highly dreadful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah. Well, I think I'm just going to pay way more attention to this and really consider this possibility because I like your idea here.
Yeah. Or maybe the show does just come out and say it, and we just don't remember. So
possible.
We'll find out. Yeah. I did like when Pruitt shows up and dies, she is sitting down and talking with the mayor and his wife about a community dinner that they want to throw in recognition of Father Paul Hill. And part of me was like, was this the original plan that we're going to have this great community dinner and then we're going to murder everyone there?
Yeah, that's interesting. Or like, if he's actually planning to die, it's like, is this staged? Did he die in front of them? I
mean, I will say like the Bev seems genuinely like shocked and happy.
Yeah.
That he's back. But maybe it was just because like, you think, okay, don't worry, I'm gonna die here and come back to life, and you're like, okay, but you don't like really buy into it until it actually happens in front of you.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have to watch the episode again with this in mind. We'll see.
Sure. Yeah. That was really all I had. I think one cool thing that's happening is like we talked about that this is not really a mystery box show, and it's mostly because, as you said, the vast majority of the mysteries are gone now. We just have kind of everything that happens from now on. We know who Pruitt is. We know what the vampire is. We kind of know the plan for the town. I don't think we haven't said that, oh, he's going to have them all murder themselves so they can come back as a vampire. That has not been revealed to us. Yes. And then of course the Sarah, of it all still is out there, but man, we got a lot of sad stuff coming.
Yeah. I mean, the Riley thing.
Riley dying, I think, is pretty shocking.
Yeah, that was hugely shocking.
I remember being shocked. Like when we talk about it, we'll get there. But I remember even on the boat having this real sense of anxiety where you don't know what he's doing, and you're like, is he gonna fucking bite her and kill her?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
which is what I think you're intended to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it happens like relatively early in the sequence of episodes. You're surprised that Riley would be dying at this point in time.
So I think it happens in episode 5.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I think I said last week 4, but I was wrong.
It's 5 out of 8, right? So
7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
It feels like it's shocking, and this is the secret thing of like in the first episode where I said, "Hey, it's weird that Kate Siegel is billed higher than what's his name? And it's like, oh, because he's not Zach Gilford. He's not going to be here for the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's funny. I because I thought it was episode 4 that he died. I convinced myself that this episode was the one in which he gets bit, and so in the last moments in the AA meeting in the rec center, I was kind of waiting for something to happen there. And I was like primed for it, especially when like Pruitt says, "Oh, I'll clean up after you guys. You guys go."
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh, Riley." This is when Riley comes back and sees him, and then. But no, that's going to happen next episode.
But it's funny that you point that out, because him saying, "I'll clean up after you guys go," is the setup for next episode where the same thing will happen and Riley will come back.
Yeah. But Riley specifically comes back because he catches Pruitt in a lie, I think. So I think that's the thing I think next episode is Joe dies, right? I can't remember whether the vampire eats Joe or whether Pruitt eats Joe. I think it's Pruitt.
I don't remember that. I don't remember how that unfolds exactly.
It's going to be really fun to talk next week about how like Flanagan sets up this wonderful thing and shows us this wonderful power of forgiveness, and it can change a man and make him want to live and give him hope for the first time in his life, and then immediately kill him.
Yeah. Well, because there's all kinds of stuff you could say about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we will too.
Cool.
But that's really all I had. Anything else for you?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thus ends the spoiler section, and thus ends the podcast. And we are so afraid. Next week on the show, we will continue with book 4 of Midnight Mass, titled Lamentations. I don't remember this book in the Bible, so I'm going to have to refresh myself on what Lamentations was. I bet it's people being pretty sad.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, you can reach us via email at flanagan'swakepod@gmail.com or on X at flanagan'swake19. We're also on the subreddit r/doofmedia. That's the best place to answer those discussion questions. Don't forget to watch every episode on YouTube and Spotify in video format. And if you're watching on YouTube, please leave us a comment letting us know what you think.
And also, please head over to doofmedia.myshopify.com for all of our wonderful merchandise for Flanagan's Wake, for Kingslingers, for just Doof Media in general. There's tons of stuff there, plenty for you to enjoy. Please check all that out.
Yeah. And if you like our shows and you want to support us, please consider donating to our Patreon account at Patreon. We're back on the horse, releasing episodes of our bonus podcast covering the TV show From, titled 2. A From podcast.
Just the best name we've ever come up with.
It is.
I'm just incredibly proud of it.
And I just wanted to mention that we're sort of trying to get more free tier patrons. So if you haven't been a patron and you don't care to donate to us, that's fine. Just sign up as a free patron because the Patreon is where we're going to deliver updates. If we ever have to skip an episode due to illness or what have you, Patreon is the place we're going to announce that. So just to sort of make that the unitary hub of our releasing updates and so forth, it would help us. It would be just, I think, a good idea for everyone to just sign up again as a free patron over at patreon.com/doofmedia. We're trying to get to 1,000, and then we'll finally be happy.
Yeah, that is the happy number. I looked it up. That's the one. So yeah, please help us out with that. Please make that happen. That'd be great. And while you are helping us out, you can always leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else that podcasts can be rated and reviewed. We do not, once again, have any more reviews to read this week, but we do appreciate those of you that continue to do that. Please keep those coming. We like them. We like reading them aloud. They make us feel good. That's the reason we do it. It's because we want to hear nice people say nice things about us. That's it. That's the whole reason behind it.
Yep.
It's us and Father Paul Hill just doing it to be honored.
Pure ego.
Yep. All right, folks, that is going to do it for us this week. We'll see you back here next week for Book 4, Lamentations. Until then, we hope you come back from the dead, Mr. Flanagan. But not as a vampire. Or maybe. I mean, you do you, man.
Yeah. Like a cool vampire.
Yeah. Like one with sunglasses?
Yeah. Or like an interview with the vampire.
I would interview a vampire.
Yeah, me too.